set of college football playoff rankings have been released. Here's a look at the top 12. Ohio State, Indiana, Georgia, Texas Tech moving up to 4th there. Oregon 5, Ole Miss at 6. Texas A&M falls to 7th after losing to Texas. Oklahoma stays put at 8. Alabama moves up a spot to 9th. Notre Dame falls to 10. BYU and Miami sitting right there at 11 and 12. What this tells me is that Alabama is a lock to make the playoff, and Notre Dame would be out if BYU were to beat Texas Tech in the Big 12 title game. You see 13 through 25, and look who's in. Welcome to the rankings. The Dukes out of James Madison coming in at number 25, North Texas 24, and Tulane at 20. Those two teams will play for the American Conference Championship on Friday. James Madison playing in the Sun Belt Championship. This also tells us that if Duke beats Virginia in the ACC title game, you're going to have James Madison and the American champion into the college football playoff field. Back here with Richard Johnson, Adam Brenneman, and Emery Hunt. And look, Richard, we saw what happened. We saw the rankings. We saw what the projected field is. What are your initial thoughts now seeing that?
I think Miami's going to find their way in.
You do?
As an at-large to the college football playoff. Let me tell you how. All right, we got to talk about selection committee protocol first. Head-to-head results and comparison of results against common opponents to decide among teams that are comparable. This entire time, Miami and Notre Dame have not been comparable because they've been too far away in the rankings. So their head-to-head hasn't mattered. Right now, there's only one team that separates them in the ranking. That's BYU. BYU is playing this week. They're either going to win or lose. If they lose, they're out. If they win, they're going to move up in the rankings. When that happens, Miami and Notre Dame then end up right next to each other. Then the head-to-head comes into play. And you're going to ask me, well, what do you mean? Well, there's an example of that further down in the rankings. Texas has 3 losses, but Texas beat Vanderbilt. So Texas, after beating Texas A&M, has moved ahead of Vanderbilt in the rankings. They're sitting right there, 14 and 13.
I think one of the interesting things is, as you said, Richard, if BYU beats Texas Tech, for all you Notre Dame fans out there, Notre Dame's out of the playoff.
Yeah.
Texas Tech is not going to drop out of the playoff field if they lose. BYU will be in as the conference champ. Texas Tech is in as an at-large bid, or BYU's in as a, or Texas Tech, excuse me, is in as an at-large bid.
Correct.
Notre Dame is not in the playoff field at that point. And for Notre Dame fans who have been so excited throughout the last few weeks of being in that at-large spot in the committee rankings, despite the start of the season, it could all come crumbling down very quickly. A lot of eyes on that Big 12 game.
This is why the G5 got screwed in this situation, because you have 3 teams that are really good. All 3 teams are going to be replacing their head coach. But at the end of the day, it's almost like they've rubber stamped the AAC, despite James Madison playing their best ball right now, because Alonzo Barnett is healthy and ready to go. They're great on defense. They're great on offense. Tulane, they can score. Tulane being ranked ahead of North Texas and JMU is faulty to me because they have 2 of the more egregious losses on their schedule. They lose to Ole Miss, they get blown out by Ole Miss, they get blown out by UTSA. North Texas can score. They average 47 points a game. Mestamaker is outstanding. Their running back, Caleb Hawkins, 6'2", 200 pounds, 1,200 yards rushing, 23 rushing touchdowns, 6.8 yards a carry. James Madison, North Texas should be in the postseason. Tulane, because they're ranked higher, is setting themselves up to go into the postseason, but I just feel like it feels bad for the Sun Belt. As a Sun Belt guy, watching James Madison not have the chance because they just got ranked. You don't have a chance to move up because you have 2 AAC teams ranked ahead of them.
Well, James Madison, if they win the Sun Belt and they're ranked higher than the ACC champion, if we presume it to be Duke, they're in. So, look, you need, if you're James Madison, you are rooting hard for the Blue Devils. That's what the situation is, right? Yeah. You need that to happen.
Dukes for Duke.
Right. There you go. Dukes for Duke. That can be the tagline. Put that on a T-shirt all week long. Like, just to get a seat here, they're finally in the rankings. That's massive for JMU, right? Like, Duke could go out and beat Virginia. It's a neutral site. It's hard to beat a team twice. Virginia beat Duke by 17 a couple weeks ago, so it's not a lock. It's a 3.5-point spread, Emery.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Virginia will beat Duke by double digits.
And then James Madison will be out.
Yeah. So I can't trust Duke on defense.
I'm not so sure about that, by the way. That's only a field goal spread. I am not so sure.
They were favored the last time they met, and what happened?
I am not so sure that's going to happen.
Duke was favored last time they met in a game against Virginia, and they got the doors blown off. Now they're underdogs by the same 3 points. Virginia still would beat the doors off of Duke, in my opinion. So it just messes up Tulane being ranked 20th is more egregious than anything.
I also don't agree with James Madison being ranked 5 spots below the top team in the American. I mean, James Madison has 1 loss to Louisville.
Right.
Tulane has a loss to UTSA from earlier in the season. I think James Madison's the best group of 5 team, and the committee has him at 25.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens, right? Like, again, they'll be rooting for Duke on Saturday in the ACC Championship. There's going to be a lot of fan bases. There's going to be a lot of people that think my school should be in, your school shouldn't be in, Miami and Notre Dame. That's going to be a massive conversation. We got a little bit of clarity, Richard, with Ole Miss. The committee doesn't care that Lane Kiffin is not going to be on the sideline. They will have Charlie Weiss Jr., the offensive coordinator, for their first-round game, so that didn't matter. It looks as if right now they will have a home game in Oxford.
Yeah, it does, and I think that's the right call. They're keeping most of the staff at least, and obviously Pete Golding taking over as head coach. I think they made the right call in just not really dealing with that. I think, if anything, that was a scare tactic by Ole Miss to try to leverage Lane Kiffin to stay. Like, oh, you never know what's going to happen. The playoff committee can do whatever. I think Ole Miss was kind of seeding that out a little bit to see if they could try to entice him to stay, and it failed in the end.
When you look at this college football playoff field, okay, you got 1 through 4. We now have Texas Tech in at 4, okay? So we set up the situation here, the Big Ten champion. Does the Big Ten champion and the Big Ten loser, do they stay in the top 4 in your estimation?
Yeah, no,
okay.
I think they do. Yeah,
okay.
Ohio State stays 1, Indiana stays 2. I think the committee has...
You think Indiana stays 2?
Indiana stays in the top 4
okay.
and gets that first round bye. The committee showed us that the conference title games, if you think about Penn State last year, Penn State loses and the conference title game doesn't drop after that game at all against Oregon, where they lost, and it wasn't really that close. So I don't see the conference title games having that big of an impact. I think what we see here from a ranking standpoint, from a committee, will be what we have at the end of the conference title game. Just like Alabama staying in the field, I think Ohio State and Indiana both get first round byes.
You agree with that?
I actually disagree with that.
You do?
I think if Indiana loses, and I know people are going to say, well, they beat Oregon on the field, I think Oregon's got a chance to make it in the top 4. I think Oregon can get in the top 4 because I do think that you need to introduce sort of some element of jeopardy to those conference championship games. I'm not saying you take the Big Ten loser out of the field, but I do think the Big Ten championship loser should drop out of the top 4 if they lose that game. And then, funny enough, Oregon sneaks their way back in there.
But that loser will have only 1 loss, though.
Yes.
Right, so how are you going to drop them out of the top 4? To me, let's say Ohio State wins. I don't care if Ohio State or Indiana, of course I care because I'm an Ohio State fan.
Care.
But my point is, if I'm looking at this, if I'm looking at it with no bias, the loser of the Big Ten title game falls no further than 4. That's if Texas Tech goes out, wins the Big 12, Georgia goes out and wins the SEC, Georgia moves up to 2, Texas moves up to 3, and let's say the loser of the Big Ten title game, let's say Indiana, for the sake of the conversation, moves to 4. Like, that's the scenario I see.
Yeah, because it ties to the point Richard made earlier. Now that you'll have Indiana at 4 and Oregon at 5, now the head-to-head is comparable, right? And therefore, Indiana would stay ahead of Oregon based on what you said earlier about Notre Dame and Miami.
And I want to go back to that real quick because there is one thing that we should take into account with that conversation is if BYU wins the Big 12, do they steal a bid, quite frankly? Because Texas Tech stays in the field. That is one thing that we should sort of think about in that situation. If BYU is able to win the Big 12, then they get the bid, one of the top 5.
They take out Notre Dame.
Conference champions.
If BYU,
they take out that 10
right,
spot.
if BYU wins the Big 12, Notre Dame is done. Like, that's just what it's going to be. Like, dang. Because Notre Dame doesn't play in a conference, and I still think that they value the conference championships. Yeah. And I know that this is a TV show, and you want Jeremiah Love in the playoff field. But guess what? You might get Kalani Sitake. You might get that offense, which is actually pretty fun to watch. I'm not saying it's Jeremiah Love and a high-powered Notre Dame offense, but that's why you might get that, Emory.
Well, listen. Now you guys are welcoming me to the party.
But
yes.
Emory,
no,
if it's a
you know
TV,
where I'm going with this.
If it's a TV product, then Notre Dame's number 1, Alabama's number 2, Ohio State's number 4.
I'm not going with that.
No.
What I was holding in the holster.
Yep.
This is why the 2014 playoff works. This is why the 2014
I didn't think you was going to get there till later in the show.
We're not there yet. We're not there yet. In this model,
I'll save that.
In this model, Notre Dame is out if BYU wins the Big 12.
Full disclosure.
I don't want to sit here and say it's bid thievery because the Big 12 is a Power 4 conference.
I get it.
Like, let's not
it all makes sense. If you win the conference championship, you got to be in, right?
Yeah.
But this is why, because when we're looking at the postseason, you have Notre Dame should be in the postseason, right? Miami makes the case for a postseason. Texas playing great right now, should be in the post. Vanderbilt would be fun to watch postseason, but this is why I've always been 10 auto bids for the conference champ, 14 at-large bids, and we don't cut off week 0, make week 0 week 1, and take a game away. Let's do it. The FCS does it. D2 does it. D3 does it. So let's do it
when you
at the FBS
run
level.
for commissioner of the NCAA.
That's the first day.
When you do that,
You're dressed like a commissioner
There
right
we
now.
go. He get it.
Right, I get it too. When you run for commissioner, you can change the coaching date, so they hire coaches after the season's over, like the NFL.
Facts.
We can make all these kind of changes, but this is what we're afforded right now. It's a 12-team playoff. We're in year 2. This is what it's going to look like. If you have, like, my thing here is we now see that Alabama is a lock. And you're going to tell me that Alabama losing to Georgia, right? Let's say Alabama loses to Georgia. That's going to be our first 3-loss team into the field.
But 3 losses because they played in the conference championship game.
Correct.
The way I view conference championship games and the way I think the committee should view them is that a win in the championship game can help you, but it cannot hurt you.
And that's what they've said. They've said we will not penalize you for losing your
It should not
conference title
penalize Alabama. Indiana should not get penalized and not get a first-round bye if they lose to Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game. And all the talk is about, well, then the Ohio State-Indiana, how is the game even meaningful? Listen. Those teams want to be Big Ten champions.
They do.
When's the last time Indiana won a Big Ten championship?
When's the last time Ohio State won a Big Ten
Exactly.
championship?
Those guys want to win the championship, no matter how it impacts the actual committee rankings. It's still a big game and still meaningful.
Y'all hear that? That's coming from Stillwater. Like, where was this conversation when they lost to Baylor, right?
Only 4 teams then. It was only 4 teams.
All right, let's welcome in Sportsline data scientist Mackenzie Brooks to the party. And Mackenzie, we have been hitting on a number of topics. You know, the one big topic among fans and among people that are doing this every week is the Miami-Notre Dame conversation. And look, this conversation won't be put to bed until Sunday when everything is finalized. Is there a scenario where you still see Miami getting in at this point?
No. I want to believe there would be, but I think if there was, we would have known it weeks ago, right? They've consistently been ranked below Notre Dame, and it became a conversation of it wasn't about Notre Dame versus Miami. It became a conversation of trying to leap a BYU and trying to leap an Oklahoma. So when you're not doing things like that, there's not much going your way. And this isn't my opinion, right? I'm just trying to, the same way we reverse engineer sports books, I'm trying to reverse engineer what on earth the committee is thinking and what on earth FPI is, because that's a very gray area metric that we're trying to figure out day in and day out here. So, you know, BYU, we've talked about, they have around a 28% chance, and that's about things you guys have talked about as well. But if you're looking at odds on sports books and you're looking at trying to reverse engineer what their thoughts are, they're telling you the story, right? Is Vegas always right? No, but are they right a lot of the time? As some of us bettors know? Absolutely. So the minute they weren't going to close that FPI gap, we had to know that Miami wasn't going to make it. They would need a lot of things to go their way. We give it around a 5% chance. That includes JMU losing. That includes Duke losing as well. BYU still definitely has to lose to Texas Tech. The minute BYU wins, Miami's definitely toast. So again, the way odds makers have it and the way they're shifting the odds, it seems like they probably need another 6-leg parlay to go their way, and I do not see that being the case.
Are you betting on BYU to beat Texas Tech in the Big 12 title game? And if so, then Notre Dame is out in your, not only your model, but in just talking and the narrative in and of itself.
Yeah, and that's a valid thought to have. And we've been tracking odds makers and sports books throughout the Saturday slate. Was a really, really important time. And you saw Notre Dame go from minus 4,000 to minus 2,000 to only minus 400. Now they're minus 350. So that's the committee and odds makers, all of us doing this for only the second year, trying to realize, oh, maybe they aren't 100% a lock. And you're right. If BYU does win that game, there has to be room for them and Texas Tech, and it would be Notre Dame out. So now you have to think about Miami not only has Notre Dame ahead of them, they also have a hypothetical BYU ahead of them as well, which makes this a very, very tough conversation for them. And the reason their odds are so high to make it.
Alabama moving up to 9, Mackenzie. Does that tell you that the Tide are a lock for the field regardless of the result on Saturday in Atlanta?
It does, because we were, I don't want to say hoping, but we were curious to see if they were dinged for the way that they have been playing and the way they played versus Auburn. We were also curious to see if Oklahoma got dinged as well, the way they played versus LSU, because that was more so Miami's hope of getting in the playoff than it was beating Notre Dame in that race. So the way that they are priced, the way that they are in this ranking makes us think it's going to be them. You guys were mentioning it earlier. Adam was mentioning it earlier. The committee says playing in this conference championship should not change anything, right? They also say that teams who aren't playing in conference championship weekend, they shouldn't be moving at all. But if you see Alabama, as you guys mentioned, hypothetically get killed by the Georgia Bulldogs, it's hard to believe that that Oklahoma win that they have over Alabama remains looking as good as it does. So that's just going to be an indicator overall for years to come what these conference championships really mean. If they're going to stick to their word of it doesn't mean anything, quote unquote, if you lose.
Mackenzie Brooks here with us on CBS Sports HQ. Mackenzie, thanks for your insight and your perspective as we look ahead to Selection Sunday, and she will provide plenty of content when Selection Sunday, noon Eastern time. Look, you heard what she said about Alabama, and Adam, you brought something up, the eye test. If Alabama gets crushed by Georgia in the SEC title game, and the committee is saying, okay, well, we're not going to penalize you for the result. But then if you're Miami and you go, well, hold on a second. If you're looking at us for an eye test, aren't we better than Alabama? They just got run out of the building, or it's a boat raced by the Georgia Bulldogs. You're telling me there's not a spot at the table for us?
Yeah, I was telling Emery before we went on the show, my criteria is 3 touchdowns or less. They have to lose by. Okay. If you lose by 21 points or less, I don't think they're impacted.
So 20 we're good.
20 we're good. 20 we're good. I mean, I really think it would have to be an absolute butt-whooping in order for them to fall out like 30 to 40 points, which isn't going to happen.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I do want to settle one thing because we haven't given a ton of love here. We kind of talked about it a little bit, but massive implications in the group of five. The American Championship is Friday night. North Texas against Tulane. Both coaches have already accepted jobs at other schools. North Texas head coach Eric Morris hired at Oklahoma State. Tulane head coach John Summerall, of course, the new head coach at Florida. So both coaches on their way out, both trying to get their current teams into the playoff. Emery, look, you know these schools. You know how good North Texas is. Their offense is one of the best in the country, lead the nation in FBS in terms of total yards. Who are you picking in that game? Because the winner of that is getting into the playoff.
I've seen Tulane get blown out twice. I've only seen North Texas get blown out once to South Florida, right? So I will take North Texas. I like those odds, 2-1. And here's the thing. When you look at North Texas and how they play, it will really impress me the most was their defensive effort versus Army, versus Navy, and what they've done the rest of the way, knowing they had that target on their back. We've seen numerous teams in the American this year have that chance to be the team and lose the next week. We saw it with Memphis. They couldn't handle success. We saw it with Navy. Couldn't handle success. We've seen it with Tulane. Couldn't handle success twice. And we only saw it once with North Texas, but we've seen them stay strong the rest of the way. So for me, I would say North Texas wins that ball game.
Has Emery ever been happier? We make it 2 group of 5 teams.
I'm ecstatic right now.
Seems so excited.
Now he likes 12 teams.
But listen, I'm with Emery. I called a Tulane game and a North Texas game on CBS Sports Network this year, and this North Texas offense is electric.
It's awesome.
I mean, Drew Mestamaker, Wyatt Young, their wide receiver, Hawkins, their running back. I don't see Tulane stopping them. I think North Texas gets in the playoff.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think Mestamaker is just so good as a passer right now. He's incredible player. Incredible for North Texas to have him while they do. And it's interesting, if you handle yourself in a certain way, if you don't send your wife and kid on an all-expenses-paid tour around the Southeast, then they will let you coach your team through the conference championship game and the college football playoff. There's a path to coach your team in the college football playoff in the postseason. Not for Lane Kiffin, but for the other 3 coaches that are sitting there as coaches of a group of 5 teams that are moving on.
So we could potentially see that American champion as the 11 seed, right? So
yeah, as how it shakes, yes.
So they would be playing the 6th seed right now, and that would be Ole Miss. So they're going to Oxford to face that offense. So if it's North Texas and Ole Miss, that's 2 pretty dynamic offenses matching up in Oxford.
Oh, yeah, I'll take that. And you're lucky Pete Golding's your head coach, because you're going to need all the defense you can get in that game if Drew Mestamaker is coming to town. That guy can play.
All right, well, we'll see how it all shakes out. Conference championship weekend is upon us, and major implications in this coming games this week on Friday and Saturday. As you see, the group of 5, best chance to make the CFP is North Texas at 55%. And I like what Richard said. The Dukes will be rooting for Duke to win the ACC title on Saturday night. Coming up, more reaction to the penultimate college football playoff rankings. Is there still a path for Texas? Steve Sarkisian thinks so. That's next on CBS Sports HQ.